Hey, it's me. Welcome to Everquest Squadron Fangbreaker Squadron Adventure Squadron 3. Last time we conquered the minions of evil in a gothic mansion. Today we're going to go confront our own inner darkness on the moon. Unfortunately, I did not get footage of the first half of our moon session. We went to the Pollutal Caverns, a large network of caverns that is quite pollutal, which means of a plant, animal, or soil living or occurring in a marshy habitat on the moon. There we fought, I guess these are people. They're like bandits or refugees or something. Oh shit, are we cops? Are we fucking cops? I was okay with killing orcish slavers and gruesome undead and those fucked up hand things, but these people seem chill. I'd call this ludonarrative dissonance, but EverQuest doesn't have a narrative, so there's nothing for it to dissonate with, ludically. Are we just a bunch of psychopathic vigilantes on a worldwide mass murder tour? What are the moral implications of our actions? Is it better or worse that these recondites just keep respawning? Surely they haven't had time to commit a crime in the 4 seconds of peaceful existence they enjoy before I start blasting. Are these people designated as robbers and cutthroats as an essential quality of their persons before they can even do the crime that identifies them? Are we killing newborns? I'll show you the camp with my solo necromancer here, but this is pretty much where we fought for an hour or so until I remembered to turn my screen recorder on. I think the classic way to play EverQuest is with a group. Most classes are set up to be the most useful in that setting, and it tends to be the most fun. However, it also relies on there being people around to group with, and two, it's also a big time commitment. Maybe you spend half an hour finding a group to join, half an hour traveling to join them, and you already spent an hour before you've earned a single experience point. After that, it's sort of a crapshoot. Sometimes you get a killer group where everything works well for a few hours and you get a lot out of it. Sometimes you get a bad group or one that falls apart after 20 minutes. In general, the best strategy here is to play in a few large chunks rather than 30 minutes a day. Log on, do your dailies, and leave that a lot of modern MMOs let you do. I feel like coming from more modern games, one could definitely feel quite correctly that EverQuest does not respect your time. However, you could play solo. A few classes, like necromancers, mages, enchanters, druids, are quite able to fight alone. It's not as efficient as a big group still, or at least not a good group, but it lends itself to dad gaming better, where you can just pick a spot, log on for 20 minutes, and kill a few things before you log off. Notably though, a lot of classes really can't solo, or at least not well. If you go by YouTube content, that's not true, and everyone is soloing hardcore runs of unviable classes. I think those people must have played too much and need to hurt themselves to feel anything. But in general, if you're playing a rogue or a warrior or something, solo is not an option for you, and it's definitely not a fun option. There's no wrong way to play EverQuest, and if you enjoy this, that's okay. It's not my favorite. I really believe that the core of the game is the interaction between different class ability sets, managing groups, fighting over loot, that kind of thing, dealing with personalities. Still, I made a necromancer to mess around when I had the urge, and maybe score some extra plat to fund my paladin's crippling armor addiction. Anyways, we deal with the Pollutal Caverns, which was a little low for us, but is a great experience zone. We pick up a group, including someone role-playing as Lilu Dallas Multipass from the Fifth Element. And just like in Fifth Element, Lilu can summon a wolf and punch things to death. We also pick up a necromancer and a warrior who is an out-of-the-group druid sidekick. I don't really like boxing a second character as a concept. I feel like it's borderline cheating, but I don't want to make a big deal of it, and I guess it does help us out. Let's get back to the boys here. Well, I finally turned on my camera, and as we move into the Echo Caverns area, we are no longer fighting crime by killing local hoodlums. We're, I guess, killing local indigenous fungus people. Are we the baddies. These fellows are actually pretty tough, but they drop these spears which seem to sell for a few plat at the bazaar. Nice. And Echo Caverns turns out to be a coin bonus zone. Like so many genocidal conquistadors before us, we're going to fill our pockets. This would be a great choice if any of these poor autochthonous fungus men carried wallets. The area itself is quite small, but there are a few rare spawns that we kill and get a few good drops. Let's talk a bit about art and consistency and why this game is so ugly. One thing you're going to notice about the moon is that this is the expansion pack that they upped their polygon budget significantly. It came out in December 2001, and computers could theoretically render more complex models, and texture sizes could increase from the 32 by 32 that we see in Classic to 256 by 256, and in some cases 512 by 512. However, they did not update most of the old zones or NPCs. They did later update Freeport, Misty Thicket, and a couple other zones, and made them awful to look at and terrible, but that's, I think, later on. Anyways, when I got the Luklin expansion, I could only afford to turn on a few of the character models without melting my PC, so just the, I guess the elves and such, because the old trolls are too good to look at. Are the new models better? At the time, they seemed great. Like, you know, more fidelity, the better. But over the last 20 years, I've come to miss the wacky low poly models, and I find the higher quality ones are sort of bland. I think this is something that is a danger whenever you go from lower fidelity representations to higher fidelity ones. With these little blocky guys, we can project more imagination. We understand that's not what my halfling really looks like, and we can fill in the gaps a little bit more easily. But with these uncanny, soulless mannequins, that's a bit harder? Maybe. I still play with the newer player character graphics on for some reason, but Snake uses the older ones. It's nice that they gave a choice, but this is kind of indicative of how EverQuest layered art styles anyways. And you don't have a choice if you're in like higher expansion content. It's all going to be higher poly stuff except for maybe your characters. This lack of consistency over time is what makes EverQuest really ugly to look at. I think in retrospect they could have gotten a lot further by sticking with the low poly aesthetic, or maybe do kind of minor revamps across everything. The game would have aged better, and I think the consistency would have stood for itself. They could also have done a update of everything to keep it more consistent, but I understand that that probably wasn't in budget, and that's fine. We haven't unlocked any of the latest expansion packs in this server, so we don't see any of the way higher like 2024 models, but people are able to get some of the cosmetics for them, so sometimes you'll see these like extremely high poly mounts and outfits that look completely out of place next to 1999 micro poly counts. And it really just adds to the visual dissonance. This is really a pity, I think, because there are some individual level models and monster models that I think are genuinely beautiful, especially in the Kunark areas, which we'll visit in the next video. Just this clash of all these weird different visual styles blobbed together that I don't like. The other thing I want to mention about the art style is it's kind of interesting because I feel like this came out before anime became super huge in the West, and a lot of like fantasy got super influenced by it. So instead of like anime or the cartoons that Warcraft is kind of emulating, EverQuest definitely draws a lot of its aesthetic from like the kind of art your brother's friend would have on his van in the 80s for his like rock band or whatever. So it's got that very I don't know, sexualized airbrush comic book, fantasy comic book / romance novel look, at least on their key art, not necessarily in game, though also in game. I think it's kind of interesting that they went with that, and a lot of more modern games went in a different direction. Now, they did get a little bit too, I think, horny with some of the models. It's not necessarily my story to tell, but I do remember my younger sister getting hit on the moon by a lizard man just based on the character model she had, which is literally the character model every single half-elf female had. I think that's a little weird. Anyways, this was a shorter session for us. We wrap up at about level 24 here, and we're going to prepare for our next journey, which will come pretty soon, to the forgotten continent of Kunark, home of the canonically evil lizard people. What the hell even is this game? Anyways, I'll see you next time. The next episode, we make some huge progress, and it was a lot of fun. So I'll see you there.